Hey everyone again. We have come to the final part of the open session of Gaia. And it was actually great having you, Rock. Now I don't know where Rock is. I think he left. It was great having Rock before us. He's relaxing now. Sharing a bit of how he came to be into this scene. Now is the moment to share what is happening into the art game scene or playful art media, a term that was coined by Suraida, actually, and to think what is happening between art, playfulness, games, technology, society. And this is also kind of a bit of a screenshot, a snapshot of Gaia. We have three of our Gaians here. We have Cindy Poremba, Pablo Cuarta, and Marie-Janine, coming from all different places, Canada, Argentina, and the Netherlands, coming from different backgrounds, from art, for video games, from, well, art also, again, I think, from academia, which is something that was mentioned before. I think it's really important to get all these different scenes talking and working together and try not to be working in isolated places. So we have now Pablo trying to work out the slides.
Yeah, so we have the slides over there and the notes over here, but for some reason it's not full screen. I'm not sure why. Is that okay?
Are you okay with not having a full screen? I think we can deal with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will be introducing them and they will be doing the talk. They have the nice things to say. So we will be starting with Pablo. If you're ready, I'm telling you a bit. So Pablo Cuarto is a narrative designer and game producer who specializes in the development of video games with strong social, political, and cultural perspectives that draw from Latin American culture and identity. Pablo is part of the development team of the award-winning surrealist documentary game Atuel. How many of you are familiar with Atuel? And we're one of the co-founders of Matajuegos, Argentina's very first indie games workers co-op. Pablo has been talks on their work at international events such as GDC, Indicate, Digra, and will also be part of Barcelona BCN Game Fest, right?
That's right.
Yes. They also teach game and narrative design at the National University Scalabrini Ortiz and the University Torcuato Di Tella in Buenos Aires. Each of them will give a 7-minute short talk, and the idea is that we later have a bit of a time for Q&A. Pablo?
How are you? All right, okay. So Lu just introduced me, but I'll go over it again very, very quickly. So my name is Pablo Cuarta. I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina, just like Lujan. I work as a producer, as a writer, as a narrative designer for video games. I worked on everything from very small indie games to big, large commercial games with well-known IPs. And I also teach games at universities, like Lujan mentioned. But the thing that I'm proudest of in all my work is that for many years, I was the producer and one of the co-founders of Matajuegos. Matajuegos was an indie dev studio and Argentina's very first game workers co-op. We were a horizontal, democratic, and worker-owned studio where we focused on creating indie games with strong political and artistic themes that drew on current-day Latin American issues, from the social to the political to the cultural. And let me give you some examples of what I mean. We made virtual marches in the support of a legalization of abortion when I was being treated by the Argentine Congress in 2018 and 2020, where over 200 people sent us drawings of themselves and of their characters so that they could march together online. We made a narrative card game about Latin American adolescents and the struggles that we face as a community while we develop our emotional intelligence and deal with complicated gender roles and budding queer identities. We worked with real labor organizers to make games about unionization and how to have difficult conversations about exploitation and collective action with our fellow workers. But the game that we're probably most well known for is our last one, Atuel. Atuel is a surrealist documentary game about the Atuel River in Argentina, which is a real river that is born up in the Andes Mountains and which crosses the immense Cuyo Desert. Since before the time of the Incas, the Atuel has been one of the sources of irrigation for the historic and man-made agricultural oasis of Mendoza. Today, it is a river that is threatened by the climate crisis. In Atuel, the game, you inhabit the perspectives of this river's ecosystem. You play as animals such as fish, foxes, condors, and estates of water, like clouds, rain, and even as the river itself, all while exploring beautiful, dreamlike landscapes based on the real topography of the region. And as you play, you listen to clips of interviews and testimonies from experts, such as geologists, historians, engineers, activists, poets, who all speak about the past, the present, and the future of the region, and how it is being impacted by the climate crisis. Atuel is a meditative, poetic experience about our own historic relationship to nature and about our place in natural ecosystems. We developed this game in collaboration with the 1201 Project, who are a group of international documentarians that work to tell stories about social change and land conservation. We released this game in 2022, expecting that, it wouldn't do so well. It's a very niche game. It's a strange artistic game about a river in Argentina, a documentary game. But it turns out that since it was released, it's been traveling around the world because a lot of exhibits, a lot of festivals, a lot of curators have really wanted to show it. And since then, it's been exhibited at over 35 events in over 15 countries, including museums and art galleries, like the Smithsonian American Art Museum in Washington, D.C., and the Salón Nacional de Artes Visuales in Buenos Aires. And it's been shown even at documentary film festivals, like Open City in London, CPH Docs in Copenhagen, and the Marché du Film at the Cannes Film Festival. And of course, it's also made its round of game festivals and conferences, such as Amaze Berlin, Now Play This in London, Big in Sao Paulo, where we were even given some awards, such as the Innovation Experience Design Award at IndieCade 2022. And later this month even, it's going to be in La Capella, right here in Barcelona, as part of the Ars Games exhibit, Nostalgia del Futuro. And I don't want to mention this to impress anybody. I think what I want to talk about is a bit the lessons that we derived from Atuel, because this was kind of the first game we made that has gotten this kind of reception. It was very surprising to us. And we learned some things which I think might be evident to a lot of the people from Gaia. They might already know this. Maybe it's newer to some students. But I want to mention them just very briefly because they were validating to us in our mission and the work we do at Matajuegos. The first was that games can live elsewhere. They don't just have to sit on your computer or your TV or at a game conference. There is a world of festivals and exhibits and bars and music shows that want to show games. And one of the main reasons that we learned why Atuel did so well at festivals and traveled so widely is because it was so many different things to so many different people. It's an experimental game for the game festivals and the design museums. It's a documentary for the documentary festivals. It's interactive art to the art galleries. It's a scientific and historic game to the history and science museums. And it's kind of all these things at the same time. So by kind of working in an interdisciplinary way at an intersection of mediums, which is what games can do so well, Atuel became kind of a work that different curators were able to fit very cleanly within their own exhibits and curational frames. And kind of the real value of this isn't that we get a list of big impressive names that we can just say they exhibited our game, but rather that we can reach a lot of people who otherwise don't really care about games, don't really play games. But we found that by being there in these places, they did play our game and they did care about it. And it was because of all the great work that these curators did to kind of fit Atuel within their exhibits and their festivals in such compelling ways, in such informational ways. And I don't think a game needs to be like Atuel. It doesn't need to talk about the same things like Atuel. It doesn't have to be shown at the same places as Atuel to be able to find a home in other spaces, in newer spaces, to reach people that otherwise wouldn't play games or wouldn't care about these kind of works. And the second thing that really was validating for us is that we found that games can be different. That there is a real interest for games that tell hyperlocal stories. Stories about peoples and places that you didn't know existed, that speak in dialects and languages you'd never heard before. It revealed to us that games can draw the attention and enthusiasm of people who don't normally play them. That games can dare to be strange and poetic and irrational, that they can demand that players interpret them and reflect on their significance without handing them any easy answers. It reveals that games can talk about the real world incisively and meaningfully, while also rejecting realism. And this isn't new information, you know. A 12 isn't a unique game in this way. There's a lot of games that do this. But in the constant, never-ending avalanche of capitalist games, cynical games, games that avoid talking about the real world, that speak only to gamers, it is easy to forget that it doesn't have to be this way. That games can be different than how they are, they can occupy different spaces that they do, and that they can be made by different people as well. They can be made, for example, democratically by tiny co-op studios at the very end of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be hearing from each of them, and then we get to talk. Now comes Cindy Poremba, all the way from Canada. Thank you, Cindy. Just arrived yesterday night. Cindy has maintained an experimental game-making and curatorial practice for almost 2 decades, with a particular interest in capture media practices and emerging technologies. They are an associate professor in digital cultures at Oak University, Toronto, and co-director of OCAD's Gameplay Lab. They are award-winning game curation and new arcade work independently, and as a member of Kokoromi Collective, has been featured in both game and digital art exhibitions internationally. Cindy, your turn.
Hi. Is the mic on? Do I press the button? I think it's on. I'm just tired. Okay. I can do this. This is fine. I'm going to talk freeform, and I am kind of tired and very nervous. I don't typically talk about my own work, so I'm just gonna do it. It's gonna be fine. Thanks. I'm really happy to be here. I'm really excited. It's just such a gift that for me to have conversations with the folks that are here, to meet new people and to hear about all of these new practices. And I've been thinking a lot recently about reciprocity, and so one of my concerns with speaking with folks here today is what can I offer back? It's really apparent to me what I can gain, but what can I give back to folks? And really the only kind of resource that I have is that I've just been doing this for a really long time. And there's a danger in giving a talk when you've been doing something for a really long time. I've sort of been thinking that this is like my Roy Batty talk, right? And I don't want it to be that. Like, what is there actually that's useful in having been around and done lots of different things? So I wasn't going to put a title slide for this, but then I put long views, but then thinking about it as I went off wandering in the wrong direction, heading towards here this morning for like about an extra 20 minutes. This is really a talk about shapes, and I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about different shapes that I've kind of that I've encountered and that I've come by, and then I've kind of gathered up. And so this is my offering is a library of shapes. I'm not sure I want it to be. So, and some of those shapes are in curation, and lots of different types of curation. And again, in part, it's just because I've been doing this for a very long time, and then with like a sprinkling of neurodiversity, probably. So, so in looking at shapes that are very kind of non-traditional, very soft traditional, and very, in some cases, very traditional. One of the things that I've kind of that I've kind of been looking at or finding, or that I can speak to, is the different ways in which, when we encounter games, when we curate games within spaces, the different ways that we engage in that practice has so many different shapes and forms. Some kind of extreme ones that we would kind of readily notice, and ones that are perhaps a little bit askew. I almost never have put something into kind of a formal gallery. Having done it, you learn a lot, and you can kind of take away things from that overall. And there's all of these amazing kind of crossover spaces that I think have kind of already been spoken to. But I've also kind of had, I also have the view of this as a curatee. And I think a lot of us move between these different views and positions. I put create here, but there's creating in all of it. There's creating in putting together a show or a party or something that's a kind of a more kind of ephemeral experience. Something that's for a large group of people. Something that's a very small group of people. And I've had work also be placed in these different sorts of contexts. So you kind of take something like Super Hypercube, which I developed with Kokoromi. It's shown at traditional art spaces, but where it's more fun, where it's been kind of more interesting, is when it's been shown as part of these as expanded installations. When it was when we had somebody expertly perform playthroughs as part of in a kind of in a performative context. When it's shown in kind of small little pop-up galleries. I have created weird little art sculptural things that again have been placed in public contexts, that have been distributed and actually simultaneously been going on in many different galleries and spaces at once. And I was fortunate to get to be part of the Amaze Space online gallery a few years ago, and got to develop this amazing little online space surrounding it, which has just kind of wild. And recently I've always been involved, and even think about my curatorial work as being a cultivation practice, and have been have worked to put together workshops to kind of bring more people into game art spaces. I've recently been working on developing residencies, like the Renewable Art Game Residency, which is a project that I've been working on with Kara Stone, to get people to think about art game practices in different sorts of ways, and to kind of engage in that overall. And it's that cultivation work, particularly around sustainable and renewable game-making practices, that I'm most excited to talk to people here today. And it's one of the things that makes me rethink or kind of look back on this library of shapes as being something that maybe I don't want to be thinking of as a library. I certainly don't want it to be a collection. I don't want to be gathering experiences and things for the sake of gathering them up and holding them, which I think is really something that is a tendency that people could fall into, but it's something that I would actively like to resist. And while I like the idea of having a library of shapes, being able to share and kind of exchange, kind of get people to kind of check out different aspects of that going forward, it's also something that kind of implies that those shapes in of themselves need to be preserved or held or maintained in some way. That there's value in and of value in that shape having been kind of innately. But I want to think a little bit more about how we move in between spaces, and perhaps ways that are ground in more of those renewable and sustainable practices. How do we adapt? How do we let things go? How do we let things decay and die and maybe sort of compost? And how do we renew things? Where do things and how do things come back? And how can we ensure that they come back in vibrant forms, in vibrant spaces, and vibrant practices, as opposed to necessarily coming back because those are the shapes that we've gathered up. So that is kind of where I'm at in terms of this. And I'd love to hear better metaphors for the library of shapes. Maybe it's a compost heap of shapes, something that kind of can bring a little bit more of that kind of renewed energy into it.
Thank you, Cindy. I do love the term cultivate, and we told you so when we were doing the rehearsal. And now, our third one, Marjanin. She is the co-director of the Overkill together with Eike Luckmoller. Is that correct? A gaming, art and film festival and co-director of the Tit House, a playful art space in Ascension. Sorry, I should have rehearsed this name. I never got it right. As curator, she focused on digital culture and its impact on our society. Mary, there you go.
Thank you. So yes, I'm Marie, and I'm French, and I'm based in the Netherlands. And Ziekenhuis is this place we are working at is in Enschede, and Enschede is at the east of the Netherlands, next to Germany, and it's a city with 160,000 inhabitants. So it's a small scale. So I put a lot of picture because I like to share how it looks, but it's still everything is small scale. What we're doing. And there's one interesting thing for us, is there a big university for this kind of city. So we have, and they are focused on technology, and the Netherlands is very interested in technology. They invest a lot of money in technology. So it has some advantages for us when we try to be critical about digital culture. So we are focusing on play, and we started as a small festival, the Overkill Festival, and the idea was just to, we all have a background in art, so we studied in different places in the world in art, but our team really started to question how artists were using the games they were playing with when they were small, and this is how it started, and so it came more from a player perspective before it was from a maker perspective. And now we try to organize programs and events and festivals around play, and trying to be always very aware of what's happening online or what's happening in the space of the computer in relation to our physical space and the way we play with our bodies and the interaction with the people who play, the one that are watching the other playing, the one that don't dare to play. So this is something important to us. And we are in this small city of the Netherlands, but somehow, maybe the university, but other things, it's a very international team. So we do everything in English. I am not from there, so I also have like a sort of like distance to the Dutch culture, so no reference for this. And but it's also interesting in like being in trying to look at local development and international adventures in relation. So. This is a picture from our festival last year, but what I wanted to show is that we are very interested to show small projects, small games, things that happen in Game Jam, but also big installations. And so in the back, in this one, so it's an installation we did with Las Tesis that came from Chile to work with us. But this project in the front is a small project made in Bitsy, like a really beautiful game. And in the back is some arcade we made to present Game Jam projects. We don't only present video games or games, we try to extend play into music. So we have a lot of experimental music programs, a lot of noise. We also work with a lot of young people from the city, where we try to see how we can tell stories, so we extend play into storytelling. So we do also film programming, and we have a little cinema space in our venue where it's a cinema. But so we help young people to make a DIY movie. We try to show them you can do a lot of things without money, without tools, with simple tools. You can do this together. And so we mix also a lot professional and amateur and young and more experienced people to create things. We show it in a lot of flexible experimental format. We also welcome artists to try to be more playful in their practice and try things. So it's a lot of we do a lot of tryouts. Like maybe like people do their first time with us, and then they go to more official places. And so here, you don't see it very good with the light, but it's a very beautiful project an artist did with, it was a queer choir collective they created, and for 1 week they all worked together, they collected sound, and it became an interactive sound installation where you could hear their voices and join in or not, depending how you felt about it. But so it's a bit diverse also in the way we present playful things. We are trying to support productions so that and local, and we also force people to work together a little bit sometimes. So we in our new space that we're gonna have, there's a part that is gonna be a arcade hall. But so we don't make an arcade hall like the big one. So we try to, so we commission arcade to artists, and we ask them to work in groups and then to develop sort of like new funny arcades. So here we have Loop Squirrel that was just premiered in September, which is an arcade that reflects on our use of social media. It's like a mix of an arcade machine and a slot machine, and then you have to like a lot of things. It's addictive, but it's also like reflecting on the meme mythology. And this one that will be inaugurated in January, it's a giant, yeah, you can see it's a giant robot, and there's so it's Cookie Collective from France and 2 artists from the Netherlands that work together. So it's a mix of pushing a lot of buttons and trying to generate sound. And you can work alone or work together. And we work with students. We published a little a zine because we did this year with an artist. We did dream walk. So we went outside and we did some kind of like role play dreaming sessions. That was very nice. And so we published the game, so you can have it online, but we also made a little copy, so then you can also play this in your own places. Once a year we do a show that is called the Ultimate Indie-Mash. I just wanted to show it's very physical what we're doing. We really like to meet people, to be together. But because it's very international, because we really like to meet a lot of other people, we have, for now, once a year, hopefully a little bit more often later, a show that invites people from all over the world that is online. It was inspired by Eurovision, but it has nothing to do with Eurovision. The idea was just to, in the most playful way possible, present a project you're proud of, and then you had 3 minutes to do this. And then a jury and a public vote that gives you maximum 12 points. And then the winner of this show then can come to the Overkill and present a project. So this is also for us to, it's also based on an open call, so it helps us to find other artists, discover new things. And I'm very sorry, I didn't know it, I forgot, you know, voilà. This is the winner of this year. So this year we can't do our festival because of other issue, but next year he will come to the Netherlands to present this wonderful project. So this is what we do. Everything we do over the year, we call it open research. And the idea is, so it's very far from academic. I have 0 academic background, but it's body research. We do a lot of, so we have a theme, and then we try to connect things together. So the film program, the artists we invite, the reflection we try to have are connected to this theme. And then with the public, we use their feedback to try to learn a lot of things. And at the end of the year, we present what we learned at the Overkill Festival. So I have a little video, maybe it's better than, yes? I don't know if it will work. With the sound, it's way cooler, but there's no sound now. But maybe can we, I don't know if we can switch the light and you can see.
Fear, revenge.
What? There's sound.
Violence.
I have to do what?
Rape. Resistance. 5, 6, 7, 8. Mírame. Existo.
You see now,
Mírame.
it's a bit sad.
Resisto. Mírame. Escucha lo que digo.
So last year it was about resistance and joyful resistance, and as you can see, we try to mix the festive aspect of a festival, play a video game, dancing, with music, important reflection about what's happening in the world. We have a wonderful day program that is curated by Zoraida, and called Playful Fridays. It's a mix of interactive talks and workshops together. And then we just try to put everything together in a very intense way. Before it was 48 hours non-stop. Now we sleep a little bit in between. But and then we do this kind of thing. So last days is, like I said, we're here in we're in Enschede last year. That was wonderful, and we also try to bring a lot of different people together. So I don't curate this by myself. We have a whole team, but last year, like I said, Zoraida also have a part of the program. Last year we invited the collective Resistencia Videoludica to also take some space at the festival. 2 years ago we worked with Kostis Stafilopoulos from Greece, who also helped us. We made a whole LARP inside the festival. So we really try to change, adapting to the scene, whatever we are doing. But yeah, this is, I don't know, it's almost finished. To keep going, right? It's really great. You should come. Yes, the other, yeah. You can see. Okay. Voilà. I just wanted to say, because I have to say it, we are moving. We have a big space very soon. It's 600 square meter of playful programs that will open January, I hope. I just wanted to mention the struggle. I wanted to impress you with all the things we do, but it's quite hard to do. And I think what we learn is that small is sometimes way better than big, and that's not always easy to sell, to get funding, and to get people excited about things. But we are trying to remember this a lot when we work. And when I mean small, I don't mean that you can't have a building and do big things, but maybe more in the way we gather together. So in a small city, in a small country, there's a lot of beautiful things that are also possible. And so it's going to open early 2026. If you want, we are in the middle of a crowdfunding campaign. I just ran away from my team to be here, but so if you want to help spread the word, you're very welcome. And especially if you want to come in the beginning of 2026, when we finish with all our struggles, we are very happy to open this. That's it.
Thank you. We have time for Q&A. If there is someone that wants to share, ask, or comment. Well, we think, Mary, can you tell us a bit more about the ultimate indie match, how they can apply, how does it work? Because that's something that could be easier to get in.
It's, I don't know the dates yet, but we have an open call for 1 month, and we try to reach out to a lot of people. So it's published on our website, it's on our newsletter and everything. And the open call is in purpose very open, so you just have to present the project. So we have to know a little bit who made it, what kind of project it is, and in what way it relates to playfulness. So that, and if possible, we like to play it, but it doesn't have to be playable from Enschede. So it's more like we have to have a sense of how playful it is, what it is. But we are also taking a lot of time trying to understand the project. So if it's a bit obscured, if it's hidden in Wikipedia pages, we also take the time to look. We take also a lot of time making sure our selection is diverse. So it's not just, oh, I really like this. We really choose, okay, we want people from different parts of the world. We want people from different backgrounds, from different genders. And so this is a big part of the selection. And at the end, so we pick 10 people, and then we do this
live.
Yes.
While you were talking about the process that you have prepping the festival, it resonated me with what, Cindy, you were talking about, the idea of cultivating, because you are talking about connecting the people and working together. How do you manage, and how is your experience? Maybe, Cindy, you can both talk about this. The importance of having a residency or a game lab or people working together for a certain time. How can you help from your side, being curators or producers, in your experience?
How do I reach out, or
how do you manage that process of getting these different people together in order to produce a work for the festival? And maybe then Cindy can continue with her experience, or you can start, Cindy, with your residency.
Well, we don't have like a methodology or anything. We are very curious, and we have like a group with my team. We have a group chat where every time we find something exciting, we share. So we look at a lot of things together, and then when we have our scene together, then we have to apply to funding. So we have to do this, build a sort of story and so we reach out to artists we are interested in, and we try to make them excited by the festival itself. So we are really also, we try to invite artists to do something that fits in their process. So it's not necessary that they have to do something for our festival, but it's like maybe the way they work or project they did fits to our research, and then we want to take them where they are. So we try to offer them space for a play test or a next step in something they developed, or so that we work together like this. And then because it's still small scale, we try to, I think, being very friendly, simple, kind. We are very also transparent about how much money or facilities we have, and then we can work. This is how we work. Like very.
It's a set time that you have for that process.
Well, it's like every year. The festival comes every year, and at the end of in October we have to send our plans for the year after. So around October we reach out to the biggest artists we want to invite, and then it's I don't know. Maybe next year I do it totally differently. It's very organic and it depends of what happens, what we feel, what we.
And it's not only local people. I mean.
No.
Because we have people now.
It's at the festival. It's like I said, like we started with having actually way more people from abroad than, and now we try to be more careful of what's happening around us. Because we're not from there, so it was not our first, what we saw at first, and now we try to be more careful about the treasures around us.
Cindy, can you tell us more about the residency, the art residency?
Yeah, for sure. I want to contextualize it maybe a little bit. So I didn't, when I was putting together my talk, I was trying to keep separate my academic and my academic research work, and then also the kind of the things that I do within the art game space. Although I realize now that that's a little bit ridiculous, because there's in particular, this is fun. Because I have this ongoing project which takes money from Canadian taxpayers and finds ways to funnel it into the artists in art games that they should have been supporting in the first place. And I largely use my academic career to do that. So, and in a lot of cases, that is about like expanding resources and support and community for game artists working in a creative space through these like research creation, workshops. There's one called Bodies in Play that we've been working on, which has been about creating embodied interfaces for VR games and VR experiences. That has had a residency as part of that. So getting those funds to people creating creative work and building up that possibility space and that capacity there. The renewable art games residency is a little bit similar, except it's not a research involved project necessarily. It's actually funded by the Canada Council for the Arts in Canada. At least the prototype for it was, and the goal with that one is maybe a little bit different than some of the other ones, which is why I brought it up. And what we were hoping to do with this one is to less focus on what people create from it and more on the process of doing it. And in particular, having done like the first round of it, we're looking towards trying to get funding to support the bigger version or the quote unquote real version of it. But through the first one really underscored the value of people being able to come into something like that and kind of find for themselves what sustainable art game creation practices are, what's relevant in their context. Everything is, when you're talking about sustainability, everything is always becomes very hyper local. So figuring out where their work sits within the physical spaces, the social spaces, the cultural spaces that they're in, and then what they can do within a smaller scale residency to support or advance or renew their practice in some significant way. Yeah, and I actually have really enjoyed, because I don't think we do focus as much on what creators, how creators make the creative work that they do, and how much time it takes and how much of a commitment it takes to do things differently once you've already kind of engaged in a practice. So that was one of the things that I found really interesting about working on that.
I think we have time. Susie? There's a mic coming your way. But all the way. Yeah, speak.
Hi, hello. Hi. Enskede, awesome place. Really recommend. So really look forward to going to Sig House. I have two questions. One about the renewable, but to the other speakers, about the renewable games concept. I just want to hear a bit more. Are you talking like just the processes, or are you talking actual hardware? And and if it is the latter, what are the questions that come up, and what are kind of the solutions that are emerging? Is really interesting to me. And Pablo, I wanted to ask you about the cooperative structure. Like, I know that some countries are more supportive of it than others. For instance, in Argentina, like even, in other countries, like I think they struggle to even get bank loans and stuff like that. And so I was wondering if Matajuegos like gives out advice to other studios. Do you even get asked? And well, yeah, generally, what's the state of it all, of having more of them or whatever? Thank you.
Do you want to start, Cindy?
Sure. Yeah, sure. I can start. So in terms of the renewable art games residency, it's a little bit of both, because it kind of depends on what participant artists are getting out of it. The first one was kind of visioned around using solar as a kind of way of attuning everybody into kind of slower scale working practices, but also resource considerations. Interestingly, that's sort of the biggest, that attunement is the biggest value for it, in part because we all have different, even within Canada where we ran it, we all have wildly different energy infrastructures. So like we did a series of consultations beforehand where it essentially, just paraphrasing badly, but like if you want to make a sustainable game in Canada, go to Montreal. Quebec has a very sustainable energy grid. You don't have to use solar power to do that. And then alternately, I know that Kara struggled to find a residency location in Alberta because while there are many off-grid residencies, most of them are run by, not to generalize, but survivalists up in the mountains, and they're not using solar. They're running diesel generators and stuff like that. So a little bit of a combination of both. I've actually been working on another project that is going to look a lot more into renewable hardware as well. There's a few. there's a couple of early projects that are kind of going to be looking in that area, but the renewable art game residency did kind of do a little bit of a span of both.
So the question was about co-ops in Argentina. So there's actually a very long history of cooperativism in Argentina, going all the way back to the early 1900s, where immigrants would come together to create banking co-ops, to put all their savings together to better their neighborhoods and their communities. And there's also a lot of energy co-ops around the country for places that are more remote, for the community to come together and basically run their energy in a community, in a collective way. There's a lot of worker co-ops, a lot of farming co-ops. Having said this, so there's a long history, which means along the last century, a lot of institutions have been created by co-ops coming together to basically sustain themselves, cooperate together, and mostly to resist right-wing governments when they come into power, trying to repress co-ops and collective community action, especially dictatorships. So, for example, we have the largest cooperative bank in Latin America, which came together when the dictatorship tried to annihilate all the smaller co-ops that were doing neighborhood work with savings. So depending on, like many things in Argentina, depending on the administration in place, co-ops can be better supported or less supported, but there's always kind of a base of existing co-ops resisting together and coming together in order to survive, basically, and create other kinds of sustainable companies and working models. The last administration, which was when Matajuegos was created and formalized into a co-op from a collective, turned out to be very pro-co-ops, and the governing body of co-ops, which is the INAES, which manages the solidarity economy and collective economy, was actually in the middle of reforms to digitalize and update a lot of the bureaucracy, which was still very much kind of modeled around 1950s co-ops and worker co-op and like factory co-ops. So a lot of books, a lot of bookkeeping, and they digitalized a lot of those structures. They made it so that you only needed 3 people instead of 7 to start a worker co-op. We did all this before those reforms, so we were very surprised when then they reached out to us that they wanted to create cultural co-ops as a way to formalize the cultural industry in Argentina, which was really suffering due to COVID and the pandemic. And they saw it as a way to kind of bring a lot of things like theater groups, cultural centers, music bands, and eventually video game development under this kind of cultural cooperative banner to get more people that were doing cultural work to pay taxes, basically, to kind of have a formal structure that, they could get grants from, they could get, bank accounts, and all these things, but eventually, is to be able to formalize all this money that was coming in and actually, pay taxes. The current administration, which is, very right-wing, has been really fighting against co-ops and repressing them and making it a lot harder for co-ops to exist. But co-ops continue to resist, like they have throughout, the 20th century and now the 21st century, against, the kind of the ebb and wave of conservative and conservative democratic governments and dictatorships. And whenever I participated in the larger co-op movement, this is still very much kind of the mindset. So we're going to survive regardless of what the politicians in power want at that current time. And yes, we do absolutely, sorry, your last question, we do absolutely talk with other co-ops and help them start up and pass down all the information we have. And right now, when we started in 2021, we were the only video game co-op. Now there's 9. So, it's spreading, it's moving. In Argentina, yeah, that's just in Argentina, yeah.
Susie.
Hi. I just wanted to ask if there's, for all of you, if there's any like projects or other organizations or any individual people that you think have been doing like really great inspiring work over the past couple of years that you'd maybe like to highlight, particularly people that maybe aren't as well known. I realize that's a hard question when anyone asks me something like that as well, so sorry.
Mary, do you want to start?
You guys. No, I mean it. I think Gaia did a big, it did something to me and my organization. So meeting people who do a project in all kind of scales is actually very inspiring and supportive. So that was wonderful. I don't know, I can maybe talk about people I met in Marseille 2 days ago. And they are called the Pong Pong Club. And they are very small community, but they are on Discord. They are a French-speaking community. And they organize game jams. Between, I think before it was a little bit more when everybody was online, and now it's 3 a year. And this one is about strikes, so they are striking their game jam, so they're also not working too much right now. But this is a jam where you can only work 3 hours on your game, and then they produce all kind of projects. And they, I don't know, we met, I want to say their name correctly, but I have to remember. So we met Leslie Astier and Rose Azerti. And they were very kind, very cool, and very humble. Well, I thought, you're here for 6 years. They do all of this via Discord, so they did not meet all of their members of the club. And they produced more than 200 games. And some games were apparently 1 second, and the longest game is 35 minutes, I believe. And so I did not check yet their page, but there's it's a huge treasure, so I think that's the last thing. Yeah.
Oh, you have one?
No.
Okay.
Are we skipping you?
Are we? Maybe. I don't know.
I can say cibercirujas from Argentina.
Yes.
That's a really good one.
Yes, so the 2 answers I was going to have, one is Resistencia Videolúdica, which is here, our base around Barcelona, and are doing a lot of interesting cultural work, especially around resistance and anti-fascism here in Spain. And the other one, which I have half a talk on Thursday, is Cibercirujas, which are a very large collective in Argentina of game developers, hacktivists, electronic musicians, video artists who are coming together to fight against planned obsolescence by recycling computers and machines and installing, open source software that runs quickly and leanly on old machines and donating them, to people that need them to kind of bridge the digital gap. And also using these machines to create weird games and game art also that they then exhibit at parties in order to fundraise for, to create more machines to donate. And they're doing very interesting work all over the country. Yeah.
All right, part of the challenge of being super tired is that I have absolutely no, I'm not. It's almost the opposite. I don't remember enough details of the people who I do want to share to not be horrible in acknowledging them. I think that for me, some of the most inspiring work that probably everybody here knows about is the work that does come out of the Game Arts International Network. It's particularly the various zines and presentations and events has done a ton to kind of reach audiences that wouldn't have otherwise kind of encountered that work. There's also just this really small, I think recently, and this is where I'm going to blank on names, so I'm going to just sort of hand wave, just some really interesting projects, particularly coming out of kind of art research spaces like Milieu in Montreal, doing things like solar hardware hacking for to kind of remediate older controllers and devices and things. There's a woman working there who also does a lot of their work in France, working on things like gender gender-neutral character sets for Commodore 64 computers and things like that. Just wildly interesting work that kind of looks to kind of reclaim and remediate older technology, so we're not always kind of spending money using new stuff when we could be working with older stuff.
Okay. And I think this is a good moment to finish this and to just continue thinking who we know and who can we connect with and recommend. Also, like a small publicity or propaganda time for the gameplay. And Suraida and me have been doing a art gaming map scene documentary process, and with also the help with Marie-Janine. And hopefully it will be soon be published, and we are just waiting and finding out the best way to get funding in order to get a website that can be open, public, updated, where everyone can really upload what is happening in the local scenes and find out about where supply or who is creating or what is doing what in all these scenes. So thank you again to the Pompeu Fabra for supporting all these kind of efforts. Thank you for having us today. This is Suppose. We will continue with the closed door session from Gaia and connect again at 6:30 for the gameplay showcase. Thank you very much.